the Seattle blockchain conference, I've been told. I'm going to have a couple of minutes to give you an update of what I think the market is looking like, and especially from an angel investor's perspective. But before we get started, quick question. Who of here in the room is in blockchain for longer than about 2 years? Cool. And who is completely new? Okay, perfect. So we will go to the first slides, like moving pictures, and then we'll go into the investment part. So who am I? Let me see, does this work? Here we go. So long time career in the technology space. Left Microsoft 8 years ago, founded a consulting business, put the money into investments. Started angel investment about 6 years ago, here in the Seattle area started, and then discovered crypto about 4 years ago. So when the team reached out and said, what are the things that work in angel investment, things that work in crypto, what have you learned? Because we've done some really successful crypto investments over those 4 years, and we definitely want to keep that track record high. So I'm trying to take my own learnings and invest them accordingly. So I got the blockchain back in 2014, very clearly. Nothing I'm going to say here is investment advice. No legal advice, no financial advice. If I mention any companies, that's just because I like them, not because I'm telling you to put your money in there. Or, more importantly, don't sue me afterwards. Okay, so what this talk is about, I'm going to talk about why angels and traditional investors should really care about blockchain. That's the beginning, but apparently most of you already do. Then what entrepreneurs should understand how angels and investors actually think. Because you want our money, so we're trying to tell you how you actually argue with us. How the blockchain wave is different from traditional investment vehicles that you might have seen, and what works and what doesn't work so well. So that's a key themes I'm going to cover in the next 15 minutes, and I think then we have some time for question and answer. So what is it? Blockchain technology, global, digital, decentralized, and immutable database and ledger that records transactions. Yay, we're all on board, especially the person new. So why is this so fundamentally different? When I give this talk to investors that are not blockchain experts, find this one really helpful. We are at the third wave of human revolution. Huh? First wave, we are creating a ledger of assets. The Egyptians, the Sumers, the Chinese, they all started at the same time, and it was the foundation of what we call states and societies. Taxation. All of this is based on a ledger, and the ledger was managed by one person. The writer. That's why when you go in a museum, you find statues of kings and writers, not doctors or anything else. Those were the key roles. And why were they so important? Because the trust was with this one person. They changed something in the ledger. There was no way to verify that. Whatever they wrote down was the truth. And that kept true until 1492. This is when double entry accounting was invented, or at least written down. Now, the truth, the trust was with the books. You could actually audit books, and therefore, the job of the writer became less important. The job of the auditor became more. But more importantly, this whole financial system started to scale. And that's the foundation of corporation, global trade, the whole banking and finance systems. Without that invention, none of that would be possible. Our modern civilization, without those first two waves, would not happen. Downside with double entry accounting, you actually need to have access to the books. There's often a delay until between the transaction and when it's recorded, when can you actually visit it. So that's why now we're at triple entry accounting, where the transaction becomes the receipt, becomes the ledger entry, and that's all nearly in real time. And if you use a global ledger that is transparent, you can actually, everybody can access that transaction, can verify to make sure it's happening. So if you are a traditional investor, a CFO, a finance person, you get this. This is it. This is the foundation of the revolution. That's why I personally think it's more important than the internet revolution or anything else that happened before. So when do you need blockchain technology? It's because when you have two islands of trust, where the trust internally works, trying to transact with each other. Blockchain can play a really key role of enabling that trust between those different islands. I believe it's the foundation that becomes the scaffolding out of accountability, efficiency, and transparency in all aspects of society, governance, and institutions. We are working with potential governments to fix slavery on one side, voting on a different side. We're working with companies to figuring out what provenance of their products should look like on a global space. We're working with how we get access to billions of people to forms of identification, financial transactions, any kind of assets. So what are the benefits of a blockchain in that environment? Information can be put on the blockchain, can never be changed, full transparency for every transaction, at least with the public blockchains. The record can be there forever, at least as long as PCs are working and computers are working. And there's a worldwide ledger that is now possible, not a Washington state registry of property, but potentially global records of property that have never existed before. I believe every inefficiency in the system will be removed by technology. It has been over history, and it's going to happen soon going forward as well, where blockchain works. So if you're an investor, you have to really think about there are different ways of investing in blockchain technology. There's, of course, the currencies. That's the basic stand where we do transfers, payments, tips, and crowdfunding, and all kinds of things. But then we're starting to build value-added services on top of those blockchains. We're talking about naming, identity, ownership, the ledgers. Next steps is smart contracts. This is where we create business transactions that are happening between entities that don't trust or not trust each other, but they are managed potentially on a global level as well. And then last but not least, we have the decentralized autonomous organizations. We have completely new structures of how people and organizations work together, create value, share ownership, share profits, share responsibilities. I think based on all of those 4 steps, blockchain technology is really allowing old players, but also new players completely to change the economical game. What we've seen with Uber and Airbnb in the sharing economy is just the beginning. I think really those kind of things are going to happen that's changing things fundamentally. And I think customers will adopt blockchain-based solutions not because they are cool, but because they add value to how they live, how they work, and bringing things together for them. So where's the value created? When we talk to folks today that are using blockchain technology, it's really very consistent where they see the value. And it's interesting how fast these things are happening. When I talked to Maersk in Hangzhou 2.5 years ago, they were replacing a spreadsheet with a blockchain solution. Now they're the gold standard for supply chain management on a worldwide base within 2 years. So what are the key benefits? Increased efficiency and transparency and security, clearly. Lower cost, increased compliance, less graft because of transparency, increased scrutiny of the supply chain, and things like digital identities, not only for people, but also for devices is now possible. Much cheaper. Key areas in the enterprise where you find it, basically from accounting, finance to supply chain management, marketing, manufacturing, but basically everywhere. Blockchain is already there today. And by the way, at the WEF in Davos, the one topic after equality, blockchain. 5 events in parallel to the WEF in Davos that are focusing on it. So for an investor, though, it's all about the money. What do I look at? Well, institutional investors right now are looking at buying into the crypto space partly as a hedge, but partly because they see the potential. Half of you have probably heard all the rumors about the 3-digit million deals that are trying over the counter of buying Bitcoin and Ethereum at this point in time. Huge buyers are out there. Very few people, though, are deeply engaged in the technology and really trying to figure out what's happening on a global space, where to invest, and where the most promising startups are. The moment you put up your ICO investing flag, you get dozens of pitches every day. It's just not sustainable to look into that. So you need a network of people that are filtering and helping you to figure out where you make the decisions. Some blockchain funds or VCs have raised already billions of dollars in investing them. They are on the hunt for the next big investment opportunity. They're hunting globally. They said, where are those opportunities to put my money in and get the returns I'm looking for? And then there are very, very many small investors that want to get rich quick, and they're trying to figure that out the next thing. And they often, especially 12 months ago when the ICO craziness happened, where you could get a website for $50, a white paper for $50, and create a coin within 30 minutes, a lot of people were ripped off. So let me share with you what I think as an angel investor really worked well, and what we have applied to the blockchain space as well. First of all, only invest what you can afford to lose. If you write a check in that angel space, you're assuming it's gone. If it's not gone, that's good. But but you don't put your college funds in there or your retirement funds that you need to pay your mortgage the next month. Diversification, absolutely critical. If you start to do angel investments, you need to be consciously thinking about building a portfolio of at least 10, better 20 different companies and organizations to invest in. And I'll tell you in a second why, the numbers are, what the numbers break down to. You have to create a very, very strong deal flow. To get those investments, you have to look at hundreds of potential investments and then make your decisions, because you reject at least 90% of all the pitches. In January, it was probably like 99% of things that we looked at. Important, as an investor, you are responsible for your own due diligence. Nobody is doing it for you. You can't sue me because somebody recommended something. You have to look at the white paper. You have to talk to the teams. You have to really understand what's happening. You invest in people and not ideas. And you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. So that's why I'm going to these events, because most of you know something that I don't know. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on, learning from others. Absolutely critical. Listen to their advice. So why do these numbers matter? Why so many investments? Because if you do 10 investments, the chances are one of them does well, 2 or maybe 3 do okay, and the rest will be 0. So you need to make sure you have a high diversity, and the return of your individual investment has to hit a certain threshold. So if an investment cannot make 10 to 20x of what I'm putting in there, those numbers don't work. It can be the greatest story ever. If I do an angel investment and I can't see the money going 10 to 20x, it doesn't make sense to invest. It makes sense to work with them, to help them, to advise, whatever it is, but it doesn't make sense to invest. I mentioned it's the team. When I started this, I'll go back there. When I started investing, I had a smart person next to me who said, so how long do you do this? He said, 10 years. I said, what did you learn in those 10 years to predict the success of an investment? He said, well, it's all about the team. I said, okay. So what did you learn in those 10 years? He said, when I started, I thought it's 20% idea and 80% team. And so now after 10 years, I said it's 2% idea and 98% team. We're really looking at who are the entrepreneurs? Who are the core employees that are going to be committed to a specific project and driving it? Who are the advisors the company has brought on board that are opening doors, helping with making the right decisions? And in the blockchain space, the community. Because if you're going to token economics, it's all about the community adoption, marketing, driving the particular concept forward. So those are the key levels I think we're looking at. And what we look for at the team, grit and hustle. So people that are working hard, that are totally committed, and making sure that project they're signing up their life to, they are really driving it forward. So what's different for blockchain investment? Okay, we're good. And traditional investment. Well, it's all very, very fast, and we have to learn and adapt very quickly, because it's not the strongest to survive, but it's the one that's most adaptive to change. For those of you that are old enough to experience the PC revolution, the internet revolution, the social media, mobile things, all of them have been extremely transformative for our society, and they have been very, very fast. I'm old enough to remember them, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I'm old, getting older, but I have not seen anything as fast as blockchain, not even remotely. If you look at it on a global scale, what's happening across the globe, there are projects coming up every day, new concepts, new legislation, new investment strategies, investment vehicles. It's really happening in nearly real time. And if you are not reading 24 hours, I think, then you're a month later completely out of the loop. It's hard. It's really, really hard to stay on top. So what are the investment options on a global level? Well, there's, of course, equity, traditional financial investments, convertible debt notes, all kinds of things. Then we have probably heard about the tokens. That's what the ICO craze was all about. We are creating these digital tokens. What do they represent? Are they utility? Are they security tokens? Which jurisdictions they are from? Huge challenges around, questions around it. Then there's even more where you have combinations of those, a little equity, a little token, a little security. What does it actually mean? Where is it registered? And then you have specialized funds you can invest it in. As I said, it's really hard to stay on top of all of this information. So some people just give their money to people that are real experts in that space, or at least claim to be experts and spend their time on these things. And I think we have a panel tomorrow with some of them. So looking forward to some interesting questions. So what is an ICO? You probably already know that. Crowdfunding on steroids, initial coin offerings, unregulated means. You have no idea how this all works, most of the time at least. Highly controversial, lots of scams over the last years. But also a fundamental shift of giving access to investment opportunities on a global level to theoretically everybody. If there's a really cool company in Indonesia you want to invest into, A, 2 years ago you would never heard about them, and B, there would be no way to financially participate in their growth and opportunity. Today, you can. But it also comes with the opportunity of getting a beautiful picture from Russia, sending some money over and never seeing it again. So it's really your responsibility to look into that and finding out where those opportunities are. Those investments are global. The jurisdiction is global. The competition is global. Yeah, it's a very international approach. So token and equity. Interesting discussion we just had in San Francisco. It said, what is it? Is it a token? Is it a credit? What's the benefit of a token investment versus an equity investment for an angel investor? Traditionally, as an angel investor, you send over a check and you don't expect to get anything back within 2, 3, usually 5 years. If you invest in a token, often they are globally tradable. So within a few months, you potentially can cash out of your investment. And of course, in the ICO craze, that's what a lot of people, especially in Asia, did with the 6 months investment horizon. Said, how fast can I multiply my money within 6 months? They created this bubble, and then people cashed out, and now they have all this Ethereum they need to cash out too. I don't have a solution yet, but that's what it looks like. The interesting, though, is if you look at the systems in a specific company, what are the incentives between token holders, the community, the management teams, the original backers, the key influencers? We're really looking at all of these things and try to understand how they work together to making sure we find where there is enough economic value for all the stakeholders to create a potential of great collaboration there. And that's the other thing is, how do you hire the best people? Well, usually in the startup world, you give them some equity and money. Often crypto companies now offer them token. And I would love to get some feedback later on, but what I'm hearing is equity still wins, at least for the people that are committed for 2 or 3 years to stay with that particular company. This slide might be helpful for the investors. So traditionally, you get the first round of funding is the founders and family you get your money from. Then you go to angels and ask for some money. And then you do grow your business. And when you're trying to raise the next bunch of $1 million, you do your Series A, then you do your tens of millions of dollars, you do your Series B, and then eventually maybe you do an IPO, the company gets bought out. The crypto space is very different. What happened last year, somebody put up a website, white paper, built an initial project, found some families. Then they started often a private ICO. So they went completely direct into the token model, high discounts for early investors, like 99% discounts. That's where the people, and then everybody at ICO dumped what they had. Price went up and down, and the early investor cashed out. The retail investors got stuck with the tokens that then went down by 90%. Not a good model. But that's the model how it all worked. So it was really key to become part of the pre-ICO if you wanted to do quick money. That's where the big budget was. Right now, we're really seeing a change in how these things come together. We still have founders and families to get the first round. We see actually angels and VCs helping the companies in the early stages, right well before an ICO. So the ICO is not the core fundraising mechanism to build the company, which still means as an angel investor, all the old list of what's my opportunity, what's my risk profile are coming back up again. And then eventually there might be a private sale, there might be an ICO, there might be something else down the road where the company is bringing. It's interesting if you see a company Coinbase. Brian was just on stage at Disrupt, and he put it quite nicely. He says, our company is not a US company. We're thinking about building an open financial system for the world. We're based in San Francisco, but we are thinking about a system that is globally. We need to make sure that we are operating today with the rigor of a public company, because we are thinking about tokenizing not only our business, but we are thinking about what's the next step. Why do you have shares? Why can't a token represent a share? What's the right approach to go out there? Do you have to be listed on NASDAQ, or is there other markets to trade this? Maybe our own market. So there's a completely new set of thinking going on. That means for us as investors, we have to think global. It's really hard to do global due diligence, and that's why we need to make sure we have a network of trusted people we're working with, and tap the expertise that's in the networks, in the communities. I highly recommend Telegram chat groups, by the way, and making connections there. And well, with trusted analysis in the fund specialists, because we have to look at areas like security levels. We talked about the different applications in there. You have to look at where security is captured in a specific company. What's the token economics looking like? All of those things are key questions you need to decide before you actually move forward. Is there a business model? Will people actually pay for it? How is it financed? How is the team going to be financed 2 or 3 years from now? What's the leadership team? I think I'm posting all the slides. We're running out of time anyway. So at the end of the day, do your best due diligence and then take a bet. It's still the same as we do as an angel investors, because I think it's all going to happen. The value is in the blockchain system. It's changing everything. We're going to bring billions of people into a new economic reality. And as an investor, that's a huge financial upside opportunity. All of these things, as I said, completely new changes. We might even end up with a global financial system with one currency, at least multiple currencies that are all global. Having said that, we really think it's a fundamental change. Electricity was energy over the wire. The telephone was communication over the wire on a global scale. Now with the blockchain, we have consensus over the wire, where people, independent of their jurisdiction or geographical location, start to work together and create the next new world. I believe the blockchain revolution is here. I'm really excited to see all of you here and keep engaging in that conversation, because the change will be fundamental. It will be fundamental in processes and how we invest, how we work together, and what kind of people can do on a global level. The technology and customer-oriented organizations will win. The people with grit and hustle will win. And I think together we can bring billions of people into a new economic future and change the world. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to have a conversation. Okay. Do we have time for a question?
We actually don't.
Okay.
We can do it out in the foyer. So Mark will be.
Okay.
Sorry, Mark.
No, that's okay.
Fun schedule.
I'll be out.
So
Thank you.
Mark will be heading out to the meet and greet area in the foyer. Please follow him after I get this mic off of him really quick, and you can ask him as many questions as you'd like to. So thank you guys so much, Mark. Thank you.